Alright, this is Mr. Gilliam, and today we're going to learn how to multiply and divide integers. So it's a little different than adding and subtracting, where we have the same signs we add and keep, different signs subtract. This is actually just we're going to learn some general rules for multiplying and dividing. When I say multiply, you might hear me use the word product. If we're dividing, you might hear me use the word quotient. And those words are kind of synonymous with multiply and divide, product and quotient. Alright, so the rules that we need to know are these. When you are multiplying a positive number times a positive number, obviously, we'll have a positive outcome. So we're going to say it's a, positive outcome. So for some examples, 2 times 3, that equals 6. Positive times a positive. If I have 5 times 2, that would equal 10. Okay, positive times a positive. But when I start throwing in negatives, when I multiply a negative times a positive, I actually come out with a negative outcome. Negative. So now if I have negative 2 times 3, it equals negative 6. If I have negative 3 times 2, it equals negative 6. Or if I had negative 5 times 2, it equals negative 10. So any positive times a negative would equal a negative value. Or negative times a positive, they're commutative, would also give me a negative value. So these are the same kind of rules here. If I just put the negative on the 3 instead of the 2, it would be also negative 6. Or if I did 3 times negative 2, it's negative 6. Or if I did 5 times negative 2. As long as there's one positive and one negative, it will be, in multiplication or division, it'll be a negative outcome. When I multiply two negative numbers, I'm back to the positives again. Okay, so if both numbers are positive or both numbers are negative, we have a positive outcome. And if both numbers, or we have one of each, it'll be a negative outcome. So two negative numbers, negative 2 times negative 3, will be positive 6. So even though 2 times 3 is 6, negative 2 times negative 3 is also 6. If I had negative 5 times negative 2, that would equal 10. So even though I have 5 times 2 is 10, negative 2 times negative 5, or negative 5 times negative 2 is also 10. So these are the rules we need to know. Same signs, positive. Different signs, negative, when we multiply or divide. So let's just take a look through some of these, and these are just practice. It looks like I have a negative times a positive. A negative times a positive. A negative times a positive is a negative value. So I just need to make sure my answer is negative. 2 times 6 is 12. So negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. Remember, a fraction bar means division. So in this case, I have a negative divided by a positive. I have a negative and a positive. So once again, I have a negative and a positive. I know my outcome is going to be negative. A negative divided by, so 20 divided by 5 is 4, but I know it's going to be a negative value. 5 times negative 2, negative 10. We have one of those as a negative value. And then these are the tricky ones. If you have two negatives and you're dividing two negative numbers, it becomes a positive outcome. 36 divided by 6. We have two negatives or two positives. We're multiplying or dividing, finding the product or quotient. It'll be a positive outcome. Ooh, now we got like multiple step problems here. I'm going to do this right in order from left to right, just as order of operation dictates. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9 times negative 1. Positive times a negative is still negative. Now I have two negatives multiplied together. That will give me a positive outcome. 9 times 1 is 9. On number 6, I'm going to do the numerator first. Negative 2 times negative 10 would be a positive 20. Two negatives when you multiply as a positive outcome, divided by negative 4. And now I have a positive value divided by a negative value. I'll have one of each, so I know my outcome will be negative. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Number 7, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. And 40 divided by 8 is 5. And number 8, I'm going to do it right in order. Negative 8 times negative 3 is 24 times negative 2. I have a positive times a negative, which is negative 48. Only a few more to go. Once again, a positive by a negative. I have one sign of each, so I know my outcome will be negative. 72 divided by 9 is 8. So my outcome is -8. On this one, I have a negative times a positive, one sign of each, one negative, one positive, meaning my answer, my outcome will be negative. 8 times 7 is 56. Once again, I'm going to go right in order for number 11 from left to right. Negative times a positive is a negative value, -24 times -2. And as you see how there's no multiplication sign in there. When they're squished together like that, it means multiply. When I take -24 times -2, those are both negative values, so I know my outcome will be positive. My product of 24 times 2 is 48. I know it's positive because I have two negative values. And then finally, -36 divided by a positive times a negative is a -36. And I know that a negative divided by a negative, those are both the same sign, so my outcome will be positive. My quotient will be positive. 36 divided by 36 is 1, so +1. All right, so that is all that we really need to know for today's lesson. We're going to practice some of our multiplication facts, some division problems. If they have the same sign, it's a positive outcome. If they have different signs, it's a negative outcome. So, and that's it for today.